Hello, everybody, and thank you for the introduction, Helen. I'm Amir Montazery, Managing Director at OSTIF, and we actually have the whole OSTIF team here today to talk about our reflections on the last 10 years. We're really excited to share this information with everybody. We're going to be doing a bit of a deep dive into the history over the last 10 years, talk about some of our impact and highlights, and share lessons learned and get into a lot of good stuff. So we're going to have that portion, and as Helen mentioned, once the presentation portion is over, we will stop the recording and then go into Q&A and deeper discussion. That being said, if there are questions throughout, or anything that might strike an interest and would warrant more discussion, please feel free to raise your hand and ask questions or for further information, and we'd be happy to share. I mean, the idea of this was really just to talk about our experience, and yeah, really excited to share that with you all. Thank you all so much for joining today, and for everyone online as well. If they watch in the future, thank you for taking the time to learn about OSTIF. So OSTIF is the Open Source Technology Improvement Fund. Oh, thank you, Sally. Yeah, we're excited. And so this is kind of a high-level agenda of what we're going to talk about today. Going to talk a little bit of introduction, go into our story, highlights, and then jump all the way to lessons learned, audit value, and a whole bunch of other things. So that is the agenda. So none of this is possible without collaboration and strong communities, and we're extremely grateful being a nonprofit organization, being an independent nonprofit organization, and very much open to collaborating with other organizations, foundations, security researchers, audit firms, projects, maintainers. And this is just a snapshot of some of the organizations and projects we've gotten to work with over the years. It's just kind of a snapshot. I think if we really listed it out, there would be many, many more here, but just acknowledging that this doesn't happen in isolation. All of our work is very collaborative, and we're extremely grateful to be in the open source space because of how much collaboration is involved and really required to produce outcomes. Some background on our story. So OSTIF started in 2015, back when Derek and I were younger people, and and yeah, the idea was really driven by the need. So Derek had observed very much so, especially in the open source space, a lack of a independent body to really take responsibility for maintaining and helping fill the gap, the security gaps that are ever present in projects, and fulfill that technical debt that comes with the rapid development of open source. After observing some other foundations that were in the space that were doing similar, that had similar visions to help. Yes, indeed, Derek. Talking about thousands of gray hairs ago. That is a good way to measure it, yes. But yes, observing other foundations and other organizations, from large foundations to small efforts that wanted to also help answer this question of how can we address that tech debt in open source projects? How can we help uplift projects with their security posture? And brought the idea of OSTIF together, and it made sense given our research focus and public, what's the word for public? The public benefit, there you go, the public benefit of our work. Achieved 501c3 status shortly after incorporating. And the first 5 years, really, we called our pilot program. We really did the kind of stereotypical pull ourselves up by the bootstraps kind of thing. A lot of that was on Derek, who did the initial incorporation and started reaching out to different audit teams, researchers, advocates in open source and in security. And despite really starting from nothing, it was just us and the idea and the desire to do this work. In that 5 years, we did I would say a really commendable job, really learning the ropes and building the foundation that makes OSTIF so successful. In that 5 years, we built out our mission, network, and ethos. Completed 16 projects, security audits, with a total of almost $800,000 in funding. And that was really all just completely bootstrapped and just from the efforts of Derek and myself, and of course all of the collaborators that started slowly but surely joining our cause. So moving forward, I kind of our first our movement into really taking this on as a full-time role and grew to the point where it required our full-time work came in 2021, when we were able to get a grant from Google's open source security team to manage an audit program of a number of critical open source projects, to fantastic results. One of which was the Git audit, which we will actually go into in more detail coming up. Thankfully, a year later, we were able to get a grant from Amazon Web Services doing a very similar function, managing audit programs, an audit program for critical open source projects, and to a high level of success as well from that program. Almost 90 vulnerabilities found and fixed, and a very large percentage of those were higher critical severity vulnerabilities. So a lot of good improvements to those projects that we collaborated on, and it just really helped refine our process for managing audit programs for open source projects. And then thankfully, we were able to continue that momentum in the following year, started our partnership with the Sovereign Tech Fund, now the Sovereign Tech Agency, by joining their BRP, their Bug Resilience Program. They had recognized the impact that we were making in improving critical open source technologies and expressed a desire to work with us. And thankfully, we're on 2 years of collaboration with the Sovereign Tech Agency, in which a impact report will be coming out hopefully early next year that will summarize essentially all of that work that has been done. And then moving on to this year, 2025, we got to celebrate our 10-year anniversary, which drove this meetup, and we had a very small 10-year anniversary party just to recognize what an accomplishment it was, how fast the 10 years goes by, and just to stop for a second and pat ourselves on the back and just recognize all of the work that was enabled by our efforts and the collaboration that we were able to facilitate and create with just our efforts in furthering this mission. So yeah, we had a small party here in Chicago in June. Just had a little pizza party with our friends and family. And sadly, Katie, didn't know you yet. Otherwise, would have loved to have you come. And as well as some other folks who are either local or close by enough. But yeah, we were able to get a few folks from the community as well to come. And yeah, we really had a great time. So we're really excited for the next 10 years and to further growth. And this meetup kind of marks one of our accomplishments of the 10-year anniversary, to be able to share this experience and really just recognize the work that was done and just put a timestamp on it and put something out in the world for folks to see and learn about our journey. So moving into some audit highlights. Derek, feel free to jump in as well if you'd like to provide any context, further context. But this Git audit was actually a really fantastic effort because we were able to bring together multiple stakeholders. We had GitLab, we had some senior researchers from GitLab who have done really pioneering research on the Git project and found multiple vulnerabilities. They were able to join the effort. We had folks from GitHub as well, and their CodeQL team. We were able to get supply chain security review with work provided by ChainGuard, and found some really interesting issues, including two critical CVEs, which were, if I'm not mistaken, both of which were remote code execution vulnerabilities that had very far-reaching impacts had they not been proactively found and fixed. So I personally was extremely proud when we released those results, because I'm going back to the 10-year history and everything. I can't tell you how many times Derek and I heard, "Oh, this is a great idea, but what have you done so far, or who are you working with now?" Yeah, and so going from that and being relatively unknown in the space to working on one of the most critical projects, arguably, in the world, and producing some really good results in those critical vulnerability fixes. These are the kind of things that, when exploited maliciously, they make all the headlines, and we talk about them for years and say, "Oh, we didn't see this coming, and we couldn't have done anything." But here our proactive approach to security and doing these security audits found these issues and proactively fixed them. So this was in particular a very proud moment for me and for everything that we did at OSTIF, and as noted, required a high level of collaboration, a lot of stakeholders. So thanks to everyone involved in there. We didn't mention on this slide, oh, actually, no, it's right at the top, the audit team, X41 DSEC, that did the core auditing work as well. Derek, do you have anything to add on the Git audit?
Not a ton. This was definitely a changing moment for us because it transformed us into like a scrappy group of people just trying to do some good into doing high impact work. This was really a turn for us, and when we started getting more attention toward getting funding and getting more projects to do. So this was really transformative for us.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. I mean, yeah, I mean, talking about the Git project, I mean, the software that makes all the other software really possible in a lot of ways. So yeah, this was definitely a huge moment for us at OSTIF. Another highlight was the PHP SRC security audit that we did, working directly with the PHP Foundation. This was another quite complex audit that we were able to collaborate on, and resulted in a lot of findings, a number of CVEs, improvements to security testing and infrastructure, which is something we really emphasize as part of our audit process, where we don't want to just help a project at a point in time, which the audit very much does, but provide the project with tools and guidance to make their infrastructure, testing infrastructure, more secure, and that helps them over time as the project grows and changes. So yeah, this I thought was another fantastic audit. We've all heard of PHP. It's I think, what is it, something like 30% or 70% of all websites, or it's very much ubiquitous. So yeah, this was another big accomplishment for us at OSTIF. Derek, anything to add on the PHP audit?
This one was really interesting because it was our first time auditing the interpreter for an entire language. It was a very different approach from our typical just software assurance type work that we do. And we put a lot of effort into making sure that we did this right. So this was a really fantastic engagement.
Awesome. Thank you, Derek. Just doing a quick time check there. All right. We had our first person leave the lecture. That's okay. No worries. All right, next with OpenSSL, this was another really fantastic audit, and actually not our first time auditing OpenSSL, which is something we've started to see more, and something we're actually going to get into in more detail, talking about follow-up audit work. But this was, OpenSSL is absolutely core to essentially everything that happens on the internet. And thank you, Neil. So for PHP, it was almost 73% of the web. So, and yeah, OpenSSL is just as ubiquitous. I mean, all forms of communication, secure communication in some way, usually rely on OpenSSL. And despite being a long-standing project and around for a long time, it's still very much entrenched in our modern digital infrastructure. So despite being a follow-up audit, we were able to still find some high impact severities, like the 4 medium severity findings. And going back to the testing infrastructure, we're able to add a lot of testing infrastructure to the project, namely by ways of their fuzzing capabilities. Derek, anything on the OpenSSL audit? Maybe talking about how it was a follow-up audit to other audits that we did, or anything else?
Yeah, this one was interesting because this is one of the first times that we audited something twice. And in our lessons learned section, I will talk about that a little more.
Great, thank you. A couple of other highlights. I'll start going through these a little more quickly, but we've been partnered with the CNCF, the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, for the last 4 years now. And as part of their stewardship of maintaining a large number of critical cloud open source technologies and projects, incorporate security audits in their project maturity model. So they partnered with us to execute on the security audits to help projects mature. Some program totals to date. Thank you to Helen for aggregating the data. A lot of critical and high findings. But this is also, keep in mind, over a large number of security audits as well. Looks like 37 individual security audits, as well as 5 re-audited projects, which we're starting to see more, and we'll talk more about over the last 4 years, working with 6 security firms and multiplier amount more of security teams. And as mentioned with this process, the security audit helps projects achieve maturity to get to graduated status, and 18 of those projects that we've worked on directly have earned graduated status. So this is a great example of a program. So a foundation with many software projects, which many of the foundations are set up this way. This is a fantastic model for how security audits can really augment the security posture of these projects under their stewardship. Next, this is a newer program, the LF Energy program. So through our work with the Linux Foundation and CNCF Cloud Native Computing Foundation, we started working with another sub-foundation, the LF Energy, which is really cool because it's literal energy infrastructure software used in the power plants that provide power to homes that make your internet work. So really, really important. And we've been able to apply our same model of championing these security audits. And granted, this is a newer program. We've already had over 50 security findings, some of which were high severity findings, all of which fixed. And yeah, this is a really great program so far because we talk so much about how the work that we do is working on improving critical infrastructure. And sometimes that can be more conceptual, but when we talk about energy, when we talk about having power in your home, having heat in your home, These are really real things that you can relate to and recognize as being really important, and being part of the infrastructure that we rely on. So yeah, these have been a fantastic collaboration so far, and wanted to highlight some of those. So now getting into the lessons learned. So it boiled down to kind of three really important things. And I'm hoping that bringing up these bullet points will kind of bring up some discussion and get our memories going of examples of kind of how we learn these lessons. We'll definitely I'll open the floor after we bring after each point to anyone else who would like to share. But the first one being that every open source project is unique and has unique needs. So this is something we found that a lot of some efforts are really trying to standardize and scale a lot of efforts, which is great to help more projects. But when the projects are so incredibly unique and their needs are unique, we found that working directly with them and catering security work to those needs yields significantly better results than something like just applying a kind of standard template, or even worse, kind of prescribing to projects things that they need to do without really fully understanding what their project is or how it operates. So we have found this very much, and we credit this with our success because every single audit that we do goes through a very rigorous research and analysis phase, and intense scoping that happens, and a lot of that is informed from the maintainers and the people who are most intimately familiar with the projects. And we found that this has really been a tremendous lesson that thankfully we learned early, and something that we really take to heart. But we've seen other efforts out there that, despite being well-intentioned, because they're too broad and they're too broad and not as applicable in every situation, might not be as beneficial as they intend. So any thoughts on that point, Derek or Helen or Tom?
In the interest of time, I'm going to let this one go until the Q&A.
Okay, that's a good point. I'm just going to do a quick time check. Looks like we're already 30 minutes in. So yeah, I'll move through the rest and we can get into the Q&A. So the next lesson is that really all open source projects can benefit from this kind of security work. This, to me personally, was very apparent during the Git audit, because I had kind of assumed wrongfully that, oh, Git, it's such a popular project, everybody knows what it is. It has, to some degree, institutional backing, directly and indirectly, from tech giants, Microsoft, for example. But really, the project needed a lot of help, and the maintainers and the contributors of that project are doing a fantastic job maintaining it and contributing to it. But still, they really needed that additional security help that we were able to provide. And that was a big lesson to me, that a project, despite maybe being having, let's say, its own foundation, or being part of a foundation and receiving some security help, for example, there's typically still a lot of gaps there. And the type of security work that we do, which is specifically focused on filling in those gaps and uplifting the project, have been beneficial to projects from, single maintainer projects to very large projects to newer projects to projects that have been around for over 25 years. So we've really noticed that this type of work is very needed. There is a huge demand, and that projects are benefiting from it. And then the third one, this is definitely probably the biggest lesson we've learned, is that maintainer buy-in or maintainer engagement is a non-negotiable must for a successful audit. We've tried, despite having good intentions, to do security work proactively, and then later looping in, let's say, maintainers. Even that has had caused some speed bumps, where really getting them involved from the very beginning, being very transparent about your intentions and about the intent to collaborate and improve the project, and getting them involved, getting their feedback and involvement, really is, I would say, one of the biggest contributors to our successful engagements. So when thinking about the value that audits provide, this can be tough sometimes, because a lot of it is very much qualitative, but we've seen in a lot of other presentations and research, this average cost of a data breach report being referenced quite a lot, where through IBM research found that the global average cost of a data breach is around just under $5 million. And we compared that to at the time of creating this, the 121 high-end critical severity vulnerabilities found in OSTIF audits, like the remote code execution vulnerabilities. Multiplying that by that gets a staggering number of over $500 million. Comparing that to the running total of OSTIF funding for all of our audit work of just over $6 million, gets us a ROI of over 9,000%, which I think is a way to demonstrate that this work is highly valuable. And proactive security work, especially, it kind of is like the age-old expression, and despite being age-old, I can never remember it. It's like a ounce of prevention is
worth a pound of cure.
Is worth a pound of cure. Thank you, Helen. So I think this is a fine example of that. So looking ahead, we recently put out a strategy, published our strategy for the future. And we're looking to, and this was actually inspired by the work that the Rust Foundation had done, publishing their strategy publicly, just for good practice and transparency. We are looking to be based on 3 core tenets to grow. So namely, to grow our reach, our capabilities, our community, and our impact; to share our expertise, results, failures, and other resources, which will be coming, I think, in the next slide; and develop. So develop our teams, relationships, programs, and processes. And these are really kind of based off of kind of 2 core pillars of community building, which we're going to talk about more, as well as research and education, so the core work that is done at OSTIF. So yeah, talking about sharing, it wouldn't be very helpful for us to just have all of this experience in our minds. So we have done our best to document a lot of the resources here. On our GitHub, we have preparation guides, FAQs. We've even put out a minimum standards and expectations for open source security audits. Last year, in partnership with Least Authority, we put out a best practices guide for maintainers, developers, and prod PMs looking to take the first steps in securing their project, which we think is very much a needed resource, as well as our audit reports and other community resources that aren't necessarily always ours, but if they're very useful and can help the community, we make sure to amplify those and share those resources. Wow. So talking about some next steps and challenges, of course, there's the AI bubble, and we're getting a lot of discussion around AI doing essentially the work that that our security researchers do, as well as some other next steps and challenges being scaling up our audit commitments. So going back to projects who have, let's say, already received security audit work, and also scaling that work up. So if we're able to do 100 security audits, how do we 10x that? How do we do 1,000? As well as government funding. Thankfully, our experience with Sovereign Tech Fund, now Sovereign Tech Agency, has been very highly successful because there has been less friction in getting access to funding for open source security work. But of course, it continues to be a big challenge. Derek, any thoughts on some of these challenges, particularly the AI question, which of course comes up quite regularly?
Oh, the AI question could be its own talk entirely.
Yeah.
So, but we are constantly dealing with over optimism about how much AI can do, but additionally, we're looking at how it can augment us and make our efforts more efficient and get better results.
Thank you, and I'm sure that'll probably come up in our Q&A as well. This is fun. We thought it would be fun to do a little bit of story time, just to show that we're real humans behind this, and we have some funny stories from our experience. The one that comes to mind is when we all arrived in Vienna. This was last year, last fall, during once in a 100 years flooding and rain that hit Vienna and caused a lot of flooding in the region. But just getting there, and I'll never forget getting off of the train and just like immediately getting blasted in the face with with essentially like a hose of water. And the funniest part of that, I would say, was the what Helen and I called the graveyard of umbrellas, all the umbrellas that had been blown out and just completely destroyed by the wind, just filling up all the bins, and it just really looked kind of like a graveyard. So that was a funny time. And of course, when it rains, it pours, literally and figuratively in this case, because when we were meeting up with Derek at our hotel in Vienna, Derek got a little bit lost getting in because it was a very oddly designed hotel and was essentially like 10 floors underground.
Got locked 10 floors
on,
underground.
Yeah, so it was a rough start, but it ended up being a really great conference, and a good story. So, and then of course, Derek and I, when we did our very first conference at Freenode Live, I came from a background in IT auditing and where it was not uncommon to wear, formal wear, suits, things like that. And Derek and I were going to our first conference. We wanted to make a good, first impression, and we wore our nice suits and gave a talk, and quickly saw that we were definitely odd ducks there, being in suits, and got called out for it, but in a fun way, of course, not in a scolding way, but it just turned into a really fun story, and actually led to us meeting one of the most fantastic people we've collaborated with over the last 10 years. In Leslie. So yeah, just a really fun experience there. And then just for recency, the planning and celebrating our 10-year anniversary was really a lot of fun. It was really unlike anything we'd ever done because, usually we're just focused on our core audit work, and, this was a little different, but still really fun. It was great to have our families and friends come out and celebrate with us. And for all of you to celebrate with us today too. So it's really, really special. And yeah, just thought we'd share a list of some of the conferences we've been to over the years, the bold ones being ones that we've spoken at. But yeah, just showing that we really try to get out there and meet the communities and meet the different people that we collaborate with. And if there's anything I've learned, it's that there's always another conference. There's just so many that we can't get to all of them. But this year in particular, it was nice to branch out a little bit. I was able to go to All Things Open for the first time and give a talk in collaboration with OSI, the Open Source Initiative, which was a fantastic experience. And also I got to meet Katie as well. So that was really nice. And yeah, hopefully we'll be branching out to more conferences too, to just connect with the different communities. Talking about community building, this was an effort that really was spearheaded this year by Helen and Neil to start doing what we're doing now, online meetups. Conferences can be expensive, travel can be difficult. There isn't always a great kind of forum to discuss certain security topics and community topics. So we kind of, as an organization, spearheaded this community building via online meetups, with which has been highly successful so far. It's been great because we are amplifying other people's work in the space. So we had people give a talk about an audit that we weren't even a part of, but just, again, amplifying the space as a whole and providing a platform for people from the community to talk about the security work that they do. So yeah, we're really excited about that. I think it's been highly successful so far. Open call to anyone who ever would like to submit a talk and participate in a meetup. Please do. Yeah, we would love to have you. Just some testimonials. I won't read these word for word, but we asked a few folks for direct feedback and testimonials. So huge thank you to everyone who provided insight and testimonials. It really, really warms our heart. This kind of work it's not necessarily thankless, but it's not designed to be kind of that kind of work where proactive security work, no one really, there's no prize for going to the dentist, right? So, but yeah, we just really thank the positive feedback and just the motivation. It really motivates us to keep doing the work that we do. So just want to thank everybody. And with that note, we some folks actually were nice enough to record testimonials, so we were going to play them for you.
I first heard of OSTIF in 2019 when I met Amir at the inaugural Copyleft Conf in Brussels. I thought it sounded like a great idea and started donating. Now here we are in 2025 celebrating a huge milestone. Open source projects that I use in my daily work are among the 100+ projects that have benefited from OSTIF audits. Projects like OpenSSF Scorecard, curl, OpenSSL, SigStore, Git, and the Linux kernel. And knowing how much open source powers modern technology, I'm sure I benefit from the audits of many other projects that I don't know that I'm using indirectly. As a maintainer myself, I appreciate OSTIF's approach. There are no outside demands of, fix this! The work is done with maintainers to help projects be more sustainably secure. This benefits everyone who uses computers. I'm proud to be a supporter of OSTIF. Congratulations on your first decade, and here's to many more.
Oh, amazing. Thank you, Ben. And yes, indeed, awesome shirt you got there. I think we have one more.
Happy birthday, OSTIF. We at X41 are happy and glad to be part of your OSTIF family and grateful that you enable us to do what we love, to make the open source world more secure. Happy birthday and keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you, Eric. So in conclusion, yeah, it's a lot of thank yous. A lot of thank yous, our families and friends, our collaborators, really too many to mention, but we really appreciate each and every one of them, the audit teams, the researchers, the collaborators, the funders, the projects themselves, the maintainers that we work with, such a great community, as well as all the OSTIF supporters and community members. So yeah, really, I think the line at the bottom summarizes it perfectly, that this isn't possible without you, and so we can't thank you enough. And so really, this is for you all. So again, thank you. And I think that is the end of the presentation section. leaving us about, looks like 10 to 15 minutes for questions. So again, just want to thank you all, and for everyone watching, thank you, and feel free to reach out to us. We always want to talk to people in the community and look for ways to collaborate. So one last thank you, and then we'll go off the recording.